letting them dictate contract law. It's a disaster. It has to be stopped. It has to be stopped. I would vote against it, and Gabrielle Giffords is heavily for it.
And Obama's appointee to the National Labor Relations Board tips that, and he has said vocally that they may change the rules without going to a vote on Congress.
Of course they will. Well, last week they tried to pass amnesty in the defense bill. That's the Congress we have now, sir.
I'm an independent.
Yes, sir.
And about a month ago, Gilbert came out with a video with a rancher. And the rancher said that he's a Republican and that she's just amazing. She's been down here supporting all the ranchers, trying to secure the border. And I thought to myself, and yet she voted against funding for the fence down there and SB 1070. So tonight, after an hour and a half, I've decided to vote for you. I'd like to share something with you.
Yes.
Last week, I received a book that's hot off the press. It's based on several years of research. A fellow, and his name escapes me right now. The name of the book is Unsustainable. And the fellow who wrote it actually hired, he's a millionaire, he had a business, and he was very fortunate to be able to sell it to a huge conglomerate, made a ton of money, and he decided, he was like you, sick and tired of what's going on in the government. And so he set up a not-for-profit organization to research why the bureaucrats, and there's a lot more than 545 or whatever there is, are spending so much of our money under the table, and huge numbers of people in this country are extremely well off based on we, the taxpayer. I'm a private sector person. I only work for the government for the service in the military. All the rest of my career, I've worked for corporations. And so I started reading this book, and within 4 or 5 pages, I said to my wife, that's it. I've known people like this. And I'll give you an example without mentioning any names. I know a person who needed 30 years in order to retire. She was told by the public organization that she works for that the last 3 years, they would more than double her pay. And the reason they would do that is so that she could retire at more than she made when she worked for this public organization. And this is, throughout this book, it explains how this has been going on for years.
What's the book's name again, sir?
Unsustainable. And to me, it appears, based on your newness to Washington, that this book will give you a lot of information regarding what's been going on in government, in the public sector for many years, and it just continues to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, you hit the nail on the head with the bureaucracy in this country. The leftists, they're not fools. They may not know anything about economics, but they're not fools. They insulate their agenda in the bureaucracy, and they insulate it in the courts. And those people are not elected by us. They're appointed, and there's some nameless, faceless bureaucrat that tells you what kind of windows you can keep in your house. And it is a big problem. And as far as the book goes, I'll add it to my stack. Since I'm running for office, I love to read it. I just absolutely love it. Since running for office, I'm so far behind, my stack's about 20 deep at this point in time. Plus, everybody hands you a book when you're running, so I have a library down there.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you for your service in the military. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I do have one comment. You mentioned that you'll get to Congress and you may have to suspend legislation, shut down the government. That didn't work too well last time the Republicans did it because the liberals own the media and everybody else, so it doesn't work too well for us. The other thing I have is a question on your Social Security, and I agree with privatizing it. However, when it started, there was 4 workers supporting every retiree. Now it's about 2. And if you allow some of those 2 to take their money out of the system and get privatized Social Security, where's the money going to come from? What we're getting now is what we paid them, it's what those folks are paying in. So where would the money come from that would continue to support the folks like the Social Security now? Thank you.
It's a great question. It's what is the funding source of it if you start giving future people the option to not pay into it? And he's right, that's what you're taking out, because they spent what you put into it. That was gone long ago. The only solution is the only solution that would fund it now. Right now, as it stands, it's scheduled for negative cash flows by 2016. It's on the road to bankruptcy. And they're going to try to bury their head in the sand until one day you go to the mailbox and the check's not there, and then we'll ask what happened. The only way to do it is actually nothing directed at Social Security. You have to start paying it from the general fund immediately, and you have to increase the general fund immediately, meaning you need to massively increase the tax revenues to the government, and you do that not by raising taxes, but by getting the tax burden down so businesses that are already here can expand rapidly. In order to fund what we have right now, we need double-digit economic growth for our GDP. When you hear this 2-3%, that's not enough. We're scheduled to be borrowing money to pay the interest on our debt by 2020. That means not only do we need businesses that are here to expand, we need businesses back from China that we've sent there. We need them back from India that we've sent there. We need them paying that revenue into the general fund, or we're never going to be able to fund these things. That is the solution. We've got 4 minutes for 4 questions, campaign manager.
Four quick questions.
Okay. Sir.
Mine's not really a question, I want to respond to that, the gentleman talking about ranchers. Well, I'm a rancher, and I know a lot of ranchers in Arizona, and I don't know how Gifford found the only one. My grandfather came here in 1895, so I've been right up the road here at McGee Ranch all of my life, and my mother was born there. But, you know, ranchers, and prospectors, and farmers, and inventors is what made this nation what it is. That's what formed the
Best question of the night. Sir?
Do you feel Gifford deserves an air conditioning?
He said it's Gabrielle Gifford's in charge of the air conditioning.
And you're unhappy with it?
Yes.
Anyone else? I have 2 quick ones.
Yes, sir.
One, based on my previous comment, who here tomorrow morning is not going to call the Green Valley News? You're not.
No, I'm not. I am.
The question was, who here is not going to call the Green Valley News?
He's not going to call it.
One of the ways we can do this, if you're not, don't bother to write to the Arizona Daily Star, because you'll never get anything in there. I've twice editorials that have been published in this Green Valley paper. They actually give you kind of a shake in there. They go in the Arizona Daily Star. I mean, you're at 4 to 5 in there for the liberals. Whereas at least this place, if you write them an email, send them an email, and get it published, get in there, and explore some of these issues that we've talked about tonight, that's one of the ways you can get it done, and pretty easy to do.
That's a great secondary answer to that. I don't think everyone's going to write this. It's a great answer to it. The other thing is, I think we'd be remiss as a group if we didn't give a round of applause for the Democratic Party of filmmakers.
Thank you, sir. And before we get to the last question here, Steve, we have Boy Scouts present here tonight and their leaders, so can we give them a round? One of their leaders and one from you, Steve, and that's, I know.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
I've got a comment, not a question. Do you have a question?
Mine's more of a statement than a question.
Go ahead, go ahead.